What's up YouTube, Crispy Charizard here. Today I'm going to be discussing my theories regarding Gen 8. Now today they just revealed Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, which unfortunately are not core Gen 8 games. They are technically still Gen 7, they are set in Kanto, and they are a remake of Pokemon Yellow. I'll be discussing my theories about the new region and the new game in Pokemon Gen 8, which we know nothing about as of yet, but will be released in 2019. Now, as you can tell by the thumbnail of the video and what you see right now, my theory is that Gen 8 will be based off of Great Britain. The British Isles, England, the whole lot. Maybe even Ireland, Scotland, you know. And the reason I think this is something that I've noticed back in Gen 6. Back in X and Y, they introduced a new battle facility, similar to the previous Battle Tower and Battle Frontier that they've had for like a few generations ever since Ruby and ever since Emerald. Emerald introduced the Battle Frontier, and Sinnoh had something similar to that. Then Heart Gold Soul Silver had a copy of that, and then Gen 5 had their Subway and their Pokemon World Tournament. But then Gen 6 came and made the Battle Maison. The Battle Maison was in X and Y in the post-game, and then Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire made a copy of it. And the in-game story is that the Battle Maison was invented in Hoenn, which takes place at the same time as Gen 1, because Gen 1 and Gen 3 take place at the same time as each other in the timeline. With Gen 6, the Gen 6 X and Y taking place years later. So they say that the Battle Maison was invented in Hoenn, and that they made a copy of it in Kalos, but as I will discuss, since the Kalos one makes more money, gets more attention they say, they consider the original Hoenn one a replica. And it's very confusing, they couldn't make this clear. Like, I'm a little disappointed. They should have made this clear. If the original is in Hoenn, why would you consider it a replica just because the Kalos one is more popular? But we're not here to discuss just that, we're here to discuss the Chatelaine sisters. The Maison is run by 4 sisters known as the Chatelaine trainers, and they are Morgan, Dana, Evelyn, and Nita, and their names are obviously based on the times of day. Morgan means morning, Dana means daytime, Evelyn means evening, and Nita means night, and they are in order from left to right, of course from oldest to youngest, and you can also tell their age by the length of their sleeves. Morgan's sleeves are up to her shoulders, Dana's sleeves are above her elbows, Evelyn's sleeves are to her elbows, and Nita's gloves are just on her hands. And sorry, I should have said gloves, not sleeves from the beginning, but I confused them because the longer ones are gloves with long sleeves. And these lovely sisters run the Battle Maison and are known as the Chatelaine sisters, and they inspired me to think that Gen 8 will be set in Great Britain. In fact, I was almost sure that Gen 7 was going to be set in Great Britain back, before it started, back in Gen 6, because before Sun and Moon were released and they hadn't confirmed Alola as being based on Hawaii, I was like, okay, anything's up for grabs. Some people were like, oh, Spain. Some people were like, Germany. Germany was popular. I didn't like that idea. And some people were like, Hawaii. And I guess Hawaii won, but I still think Gen 8 is open to be based on Great Britain because the Chatelaine sisters have British accents, or any accents from the British Isles, including Scottish or Irish if you pay attention. Now, how would I know this, you may ask? You can't hear them talking, it's all text on the screen. Well, I can tell based on their mannerisms, their choice of words, and frankly, I can prove it. Like, okay, we'll start with Morgan. Let's see, Morgan uses phrases like, my lad, young missy, we Battle Maison, oh me. Thank you for the battle, love. We battle, taking me leave now, cracking good. It's kind of obvious. In other battles, she says, you're a good one, guest. Most smashing battle. I'm not telling fibs. Aren't you now, pet? Won't you, pet? Thank you for the battle, love. I look forward to your next visit, pet. She calls you love. She calls you pet. She uses different mannerisms and grammar and phrases that you can only find in the British Isles. So she obviously has a very, I don't know, the different types of accents, because I know there's lots of different ones. I know that some people might confuse them with, I don't know, I'm not an expert in accents, but I do know there's lots of different accents. There's a difference between Australian and New Zealand. There's a difference between Scottish and London. There's Cockney, there's Irish, there's so many different accents, and I'm not an expert in them, but I can tell by the mannerisms that she is not, like, speaking regular English. And there's no region as of yet based on Great Britain, so I was thinking that she has something to do with Britain, and along with her sisters. Now, of course, she confirmed that she and her sisters were born in Hoenn, but that doesn't mean anything. Just because they were born in Hoenn doesn't mean that they didn't, for some reason, visit some sort of British region that hasn't been introduced yet, and that's where they got their accents. Maybe they got it from their parents, who also weren't mentioned to be dead, as I will reveal in these more quotes. Let's see. Morgan also says a lot of things. She says, she calls you pet. She says, you waffle about. Were you earwigging? Cheeky bit. We bit nervous. Good on you. Good on you. I'd be tickled meself. That just the spelling. She says meself instead of myself. It's very, I don't know. Maybe even Scottish? I don't know. Maybe Irish? Maybe she's Irish. I don't know. Something in the British Isles. I can tell. Let's see. Our guests don't look strong, is it? You could beat them both, is it? You had better be ready to leg it, you little waster. You mouth off to our guests. Could you ever face our dear Ma and Da? Rest them. Okay, I forgot to highlight that she calls the parents Ma and Da. Rest them. Now I must have a discussion with my wee sister. If you greet guests with that kinda cheek. Yeah, these are obviously British or Scottish or Irish mannerisms, I don't know. She's obviously has something to do with that region of the real world. Let's see. Also, she mentions that she considers the one in Hoenn because, remember, even though X and Y was released before Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire is years before X and Y in the Pokemon timeline. Specifically the Mega timeline, the timeline where Mega Evolution and Fairy types exist. And she says, here in Hoenn is where our Battle Maison was born, and me sisters and I as well. These days we make more over in Kalos, so this is no more than a replica now. So, the Battle Maison was invented in Hoenn, and she and her sisters were born in Hoenn, or at least that's what it looks like. But since Kalos makes more with the Battle Maison, and the Battle Maison is more popular in Kalos, which is based on France, again, with Hoenn being based on southern Japan, she considers the original Battle Maison a replica, and she considers the replica in Kalos the main one. So, fine, if she wants to do that, that's her business, but it's not very clear. It's kind of confusing. Me sisters and I have to be returning to our Battle Maison in Kalos someday. That is a confirmation of the timeline. We know that Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire is Gen 3 in the timeline, which takes place at the same time as Gen 1. So it takes place at the same time as Fire Red Leaf Green. And maybe even Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, but, you know, we still have to determine that. While X and Y takes place years later. So they were born in Hoenn, and the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire is where they were originally in their Hoenn Battle Maison. And the Kalos one exists already during Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, but they haven't moved there yet. So between Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, between ORAS and X and Y, they moved from Hoenn to Kalos. They were born in Hoenn, but they moved to Kalos because it's more popular there. We've got a Battle Maison like this one here in Hoenn over in Kalos. And of course, Morgan is not the only one with an accent, although she has the most to say for some reason. Then there's her sister Dana. Dana is unique because while her natural accent is kind of a rough Scottish, she pretends to have a fancy British one whenever she's in the presence of her sisters or whenever she introduces herself. But she admits that she's acting because her older sister Morgan wants her to act, proper and not talk so northern or whatever, I don't know. So she starts out saying, she starts out talking normally, barely any accent noticeable in the text, and then after you defeat her, she says, "That was quite the performance, truly! You and your Pokemon are truly..." I'll leave it out, let's drop the act. "Good lad, yourself, that's the best trouncing I've had in ages. Sure, in ages. In fairness, I put a bit of show for the guests, but I can't act so high and mighty after a savage battle like that one. Now, you leg it this instant before I consider fighting ye again right now. Away ye go and keep on winning, cause if you do, I'll show ye my real skills. Ye do well to mind yourself then. Of course, forgive my accent, it's nothing like a real Scottish accent, but to be honest, I don't even know if it is a Scottish accent. She sounds like a pirate. She's saying ye. I mean, maybe that's Northern, maybe that's Scottish, maybe that's Irish, maybe she's a pirate, but she only talks like that when no one else is around, because her older sister wants her to talk like her, because it's, you know, I don't know, she likes appearances and stuff like that. But she also says, I, my wee act, don't I look a right fool now? What in the world are you, pet? She calls you pet again, and then she says lovey, she calls you love, like lovey, which is like a nickname for love, because British people, like British women, would call you pet or love. I battled you seriously, will you, lovey? Or love. And then she says, you great lump. So yeah, this is just more evidence that they have British Isle accents. She also calls her sister Nita a moppet. Yeah, a moppet. That's evidence enough. Then there's Evelyn. She was tricky because she barely says anything. She stutters a lot. Poor girl. She has like a lot of shyness, and she's scared of everyone, and well, she doesn't say much, but she does use a phrase like "I'd look right silly," which I guess is British. And again, she also confirms that she's not been to Hoenn for a while. She's not been to Hoenn for a while. After she, you know. Okay, so in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, where they originally were, she says, "I've not been to Hoenn for a while." So they were born in Hoenn. They left Hoenn, they returned to Hoenn, and eventually they moved to Kalos. So before they moved to Kalos, they were somewhere other than Hoenn, because she says, in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, where they were born, I've not been to Hoenn for a while. So she's been gone somewhere else. Now that could either be the Gen 8 region, where she got her accent, or it could be Kalos. Maybe she went to Kalos more than once, who knows. But I am extremely sure that this is a British accent. Then there's the youngest, Nita. She says a lot. She says, "Hello, how are ya? Are you in good form? Welcome to the Battle Maison, pet. I'm not telling fibs. You will? Grand. Then let's begin at once. Grand. Like, only British people say grand. That was great fun. And you a jammy one." Man, I wish I could do a British accent just to be, like, I honestly would love to have a British accent. It's, like, something I want a lot. And too bad I'm not good at faking it. "Oh, I'm scarlet for you, pet. Make a complete and utter hash of that one, didn't you now? But you get a bit more training and you'll be grand. No guff, so let's get cracking on it. You'd better come again, and no guff." I don't even know what guff means. I don't even know what some of these phrases are. I don't even recognize some of these words. That's how I know this is not American English. Because they intentionally translated this to have a British accent. "Waiting for your visit, lovey. I'll even wet the tea, so come on by soon." She says, "I'll even wet the tea." That is final proof, no dispute. If she says, "I'll even wet the tea, so come on by soon," she is 100% British. End of discussion. Let's see. So again, she uses other phrases. "Well, let's get cracking. You wee rotten trainers. If I lost to the two of ye now, my sister would have, she'd have, I would have had to leg it. Who cares a fig about being in sync? That was a grand battle." So yeah, that was just the summary of the ones I noticed. I may have skipped a few because, again, I don't recognize every British phrase and mannerisms. But, like, it seems obvious to me that they are British. And remember, Evelyn says, "I've not been to Hoenn for a while," before she moves to Kalos for X and Y. So, my theory is that the Chatelaine sisters were born in Hoenn. They invented the Battle Maison. They moved to Britain, or whatever it's called in the Pokemon world, for a while. That's where they got their accents, some more than others. That's where they got their mannerisms and their attire, as you can tell from the way they dress. It's very unique. And, well, they moved back to Hoenn, they realize that they'll make more money in Kalos, and then they move to Kalos. And that's why they're both in ORAS and X and Y. So I think it's pretty obvious that these 4 girls represent some Pokemon World version of the British Isles, or Great Britain, or whatever you choose to call whatever they're from. And, well, I could be wrong, but this is a very strong theory in my opinion. I hope you guys liked the video. Please like and subscribe. Tell me what you think in the comments down below, and share with a friend. I'll see you guys next time.